Listening to the body. A brief meditation for mindful youngsters. In this meditation, we're going to imagine that the mind does a digital scan all the way from the tips of our toes to the top of our head. And so effectively, we're really trying to listen to all the messages and signals that the body constantly sends to the mind. But so often, we don't hear them. We're distracted. We're paying attention to loads of other things going on in our lives. So during this meditation, we're really going to listen hard to those signals. So finding somewhere comfortable to lie down ideally, but if you've got nowhere to lie down, just sit on a firm seat. And then taking a nice deep breath and close the eyes. And then imagine that the mind now begins to digitally scan from your toes all the way to the top of the head. So starting off, noticing all the details and messages that your toes are sending the mind. What are you aware of? Remember to remain still, but try and notice any messages, maybe tingling or temperature. And then the scan moves through the rest of the foot. So noticing the details in the soles of your feet and the sides of the feet, the top of the feet, the heels, all the way through. What signals are coming from that area? And then the scan continues up to the ankles. Not trying to create anything that's not there. If there's no signals or no messages, if you can't feel anything, just noting that as well. And then following the mind as it scans the lower part of your legs, the calf muscles and the shins. And then the knees. And gradually upwards to the tops of the legs. And then pausing for a moment and noticing all the sensations in the legs. And if you've got any kind of discomfort or pain, instead of trying to avoid it, maybe just for a few moments before moving or trying to shift your position to make it easier, just before shifting, really pay attention to that ache or to that discomfort and try and examine it and explore it. What's it like? How does it really feel? But if it's really uncomfortable, it might be better just to move and try and find a more pleasant way of sitting or lying. Let's continue with the scan now. Up past the tops of the legs and into your torso, the main part of the body. So initially the lower part of your torso. Any sensations there? And then as the scan slowly moves upwards, it moves to the abdomen and the stomach area and the lower part of the back. And in that area, that's where we often feel a sense of tightness, or sometimes it's described as a knot in the stomach or butterflies when we feel anxious. So what is it that you notice? And remembering to be as relaxed as you can, but also really paying attention at the same time. What messages is the body sending the mind? And then as the scan moves upwards to the rib cage, covering the heart and the lungs, and up the back as well, and all the way up to the top of the torso, in that area that the mind's scanning, you'll notice movement with each in-breath and movement with each out-breath. And remembering to relax during this process. And what you may notice when you pay attention to the whole of your torso is that when you're relaxed, the breathing and the movement in your torso mainly takes place in the stomach area, in the abdomen. But if you're tense, you might notice that it's your chest and shoulders that are moving more than your abdomen. So just noticing that. Not trying to change anything, just paying attention to it. And then the scan moves into your arms. from your shoulders all the way to the tips of your fingers. What can you sense there? The sense of touch in the fingertips is particularly sensitive. You may notice that you can be aware of temperature from the air on your skin. And then the scan continues from your arms up to your neck and the throat and the back of the neck. So not only noticing the surface, but what's inside as well. And then the scan moving upwards to the jaw and the chin and the back of the neck and the back of the skull as it moves upwards and then moves to the back of the head and then to the top of the head, the scalp, and then around to the sides of the head and the ears and the temples. And because the scan goes deep within as well, if there's any headache or any tension, you'll notice that too. But you may not notice much at all. Just making a note of that if that's the case. And then the scan moves into the face. And so from the forehead to the brows and the eyes and the muscles around the eyes and down to the nose and the mouth and the muscles around the mouth and again down to the chin and the jaw. And the scan also would move into the nostrils and into the mouth and sensing anything that's available there or any signals that the body's sending. And then imagine that the mind scans the whole of the body all at once, holding all that information and just noticing the signals that are the clearest. Which parts of the body are sending the strongest signal? And your mind may jump from a sensation in your toes to something in your back to a feeling in the stomach. But seeing if you can hold all of that information all together and notice just the whole sense of the body and how that feels. And then just taking in a couple of nice deep breaths before opening the eyes again. And don't forget to give yourself a big pat on the back for spending this time listening to your body and becoming more mindful.